Please speak directly into the microphone. Move closer to the microphone, please. State your full name for the record and spell your full name, please. Donte Pauling. Speak a little louder. Can't hear. Donte Pauling. Move up a little closer, please. Donte Pauling. Spell your full name, please. DONTE PAULING. Thank you. All right, sir. How old are you? 31. I'm going to ask you, 31. Thank you. I'm going to ask you to stay close to that microphone, okay? What education level did you reach? 11th. Okay. Have you been convicted of 2 felonies? Yes, but I gave one of them back. Okay. Were you convicted in 2003 for first-degree assault and the use of a handgun during a crime? Yes. Recently, were you charged with possession of a firearm by a prohibited person? Yes. And have you pled guilty to that offense? Yes. Is that in federal court or state court? Federal. As part of that case, did you agree to cooperate with law enforcement? Yes. And are you currently awaiting sentence on that conviction? Yes. When you pled guilty, did you plead guilty with a plea agreement and a cooperation agreement? Yes. What's your understanding of that cooperation agreement? The truth. To tell the truth? Yes. Okay, what happens if you don't tell the truth? I'm Okay. Other than those 2 agreements, are you aware of any other promise made by my office or law enforcement offices for you to you? No. Because of that cooperation agreement, is it your understanding that any statements that you make here or in the grand jury or to law enforcement officers can't be used against you? Say that again. Any of the statements you make. Yeah. Can't be used against you, is that right? Yes. Okay. Is it fair to say you're cooperating with law enforcement because you hope to receive a lesser sentence when you are sentenced? Yes. Have you cooperated in not just this case, but in other investigations? Yes. Is that right? Yes. Okay, and again, I want you to talk right into that microphone, okay? During your cooperation, did you receive money from the FBI or the Baltimore City Police Department? Yes, for relocation. For relocation? Speak into the yes. And approximately how much money did you receive? Probably around $17,000. 17,000? Yeah, something around there. And you said some of that was for relocation? Yes. Was it all for relocation? Yes. Okay. Did you receive any money for any activities you did with the FBI or for the FBI? Yes. Okay. You are incarcerated right now? No. Have you been incarcerated before? Yes. When was the time period for the last time you were in prison? 23 months. And when was that? What was the time frame? October 2012, September 2017. Okay, sir. Can you move that microphone just a little bit more in front of you? Okay. Can you tell me those time periods again? From October 12th, 2015 to September the 27th, 2017. Okay. And were you incarcerated before that in 2014? Yes. And what was the time period for that term of incarceration? January 14 to November 14. And then for your first degree assault conviction, what was the time period that you were incarcerated for that? 8 years, 2 months. And what was the years? 12 years. You told me the years that I was gone? Yes. 2003 to 2011. Do you have a nickname? Tay. Tay? Yes. Any other nicknames? No. Okay. Do you have any gang affiliations, sir? Used to. What was that? I used to be BGF. The Black Gorilla family? When did you first become a member of the BGF? 2006, 7. While you were incarcerated? Yes. Do you recall the ranks or the positions that you held within the BGF? Like I say, it varies for real, but interfield, defense, finance, field marshal, that's about it. We can't hear. All right, sir, I need you to come forward. I need you to get real close to that microphone, all right? Just lean right into it. Get right on top of it. Pull your chair up closer. All right. Can you tell me those ranks again? Defense, field marshal, interfield, finance. All right, so you were out of prison between around November 2014 to October 2015, is that right? Yes. Okay, were you actively participating in BGF at that time? No. Why not? In 2013, at one particular get-together, me and Binky had got the permission to fall back, like when he had to basically the fallback that basically while we wasn't functioning or interacting with the brothers or whatever the case might be. And I told him I had things going on and kid on the way and stuff like that, for real. And at the same token, he was expressing to them too, like basically from the same objection, Your Honor. Club, so they had objection. Hold on for a second. Stop. Foundation. I thought he was relating what he says Binky says. May we approach? Okay. I'm concerned that I'm not quite sure the witness's basis for knowing what Binky said to BGF. He said he was with them. I'm having a hard time hearing the witness, so maybe I'm missing something, but it's not clear to me. Personal conversation that this witness heard Mr. Harrison say. Sure. Thank you. All right. Sir, you mentioned an individual named Binky. I'm putting up what's been marked as Government Exhibit P4. Can you see that on your monitor right there, sir? Yes. Do you recognize that individual? Yes. Who is that? Binky. Okay, do you know Binky's real name, or do you just know him as Binky? Know him by Binky. How long have you known Binky? About 20 years. 20 years? Okay. And you said that you were BGF, is that correct? Yes. Do you know if if Binky has any gang affiliation? I thought they cut us loose at the same time. Well, hold on. Focus on the question. Okay, that's okay. Do you know if Binky has any gang affiliation? Does he belong to any gang that you know of, or did he belong to any gang that you know of? I want to answer the question two different ways for real. One way I want to say is, objection, Your Honor. Yes, he did have affiliation. Overruled. But he cut ties with the affiliation too. Okay, and affiliation with what gang? BGF. Okay, and I think you were in the process of telling us how he cut ties with BGF, is that right? How he knows that? Yes. Okay, how do you know that Binky cut ties with BGF? Because at the same time he cut ties. Were you with him when this conversation occurred? Yeah, both of us, we got cut loose. We got cut loose together. We was having a conversation with an older dude or whatever, and basically we was telling someone in BGF? Yes, and basically we was telling him that the people that was around or whatever the case might be, like they ain't come from basically the same places that we came from for real. So that's why we wasn't interacting or what, but they had gave us the orders to fall back then. You were allowed to fall back? Yes. Okay, you and Binky? Yes. All right. I started to ask you a little bit about how you know Binky. You said you've known him for about 20 years? Yes. During that 20-year period, you were incarcerated for a lot of that, right? Yes. Okay. When you were not incarcerated, would you hang out with Binky? Would you certainly socialize? Or is it just someone you knew from the street? No, from time to time we socialized, hung out, like I knew him, I know him. What was the last thing you said, sir? I said I knew him. I said I know him, like for real, the same way. And sometimes you would hang out or socialize? Okay, what would that entail? Sometimes coming around and looking for weed, or like I say, sometimes I say most times I pulled up all them is together. They probably playing football in the street, stuff like that, riding a dirt bike up and down the street. Or I say sometime we might, like I say, we at the, over a period of time, it varies. Like sometimes we might sit and play the game, or it varies over a period of time of, this is you and Binky? Yeah, me, Binky, or like I say, it's other people outside, or what like peoples would be outside. Okay, and when you say outside, where are you talking about? Are you talking about Baltimore? Yes. And what part of Baltimore? Sandtown. Okay, where are you from, sir? Sandtown. Okay, is that where you grew up? Yes. I'm going to show you Government Exhibit P1. You can see it on your monitor there. Do you recognize that individual? Yes. And who is that? Tana. How do you know Tana? From being around the way, from being around the way. From being around the way? Yes, from being around the way. I met him a few years ago. You met him a few years ago? Was your relationship with Tana the same it was as it was for Binky? No. Okay, were you friends with Tana? Yeah, we was associates. Okay. We was associates. We ain't never have no disagreements or nothing like that. When you saw Tana, where would you see him? It varies around the neighborhood. Did you see him in Sandtown or other places? In Sandtown, around the neighborhood. Okay, would you ever see Binky and Tana together? Sometimes. Did you ever talk to Binky about BGF and your level of participation in BGF? No, I mean, him and me never talk about, like when he came home in 13, I was already home about 18 months. So by the time he came home, I was already in the process of like not interacting and not like going to meetings and stuff like that. So like when he came home, he was feeling like me for real, like as far as he wasn't. Objection sustained. So rephrase it. Let me focus you a little bit. So did Binky ever have a conversation with you about whether or not he wanted to continue to participate in BGF, or if he had other interests? Yes, he. Objection, asked and answered. Yes. Yes, are we going someplace new? Yes. Because I thought this. Yes, yes, Your Honor. Okay, what's the new part? Go ahead and answer. Yeah, it's basically when we talked about it, he was trying to get away from it. Okay, in this time period that you were home in 2014, 2015, you were involved in drug trafficking? Yes, I was down South Baltimore, though I wasn't hustling up Sandtown. By hustling, what do you mean? Selling drugs. Okay, where? If you weren't selling drugs in Sandtown, where were you selling drugs? Down South Baltimore. What type of drugs were you selling? Heroin, coke, crack? Did you ever approach or talk to Binky about selling drugs with you in South Baltimore? Years ago, he wasn't interested in it. He wasn't interested. Okay, why wasn't he interested? Objection. Did he say why he wasn't interested? Yeah, basically his heart wasn't into it. Basically, when I came to him on the tip like we can get some money. Like, you know, these motherfuckers will listen to you, this, that, and the third, or whatever. But basically, he was like, man, I tell you, man, my heart ain't in that shit right now. Like, that wasn't his interest for real. So we never really pressed the issue. But a few times I had said something to him, but he wasn't feeling it, the hustling. Okay, his heart wasn't in it. Okay, I'm going to show you an exhibit, Government Exhibit P14. Do you recognize the individual on your screen? Yes. Who is that? Beezy. Beezy. How do you know Beezy? From around the neighborhood. Is he from Sandtown? Yes. How long have you known him? About 15, 20 years. How would you describe your relationship? Friends, associates, just someone you recognize? It's hard to say friends or associate for real. I'm going to say something like, I ain't been around him in so long, so let's say somebody I knew from around the way. Okay, you said you hadn't seen him in a while. When was the last time you saw him approximately? Probably 2004. Okay, do you know if he's alive or deceased? Deceased. Did you ever have conversations with Beezy about Binky? No. Let me rephrase that. Did Beezy ever talk about Binky? He used to say this little like Shorty was crazy for coming outside with all that money on his head. Objection, Your Honor. He would just say, hold on one second. Wait a minute, what's the basis? May we approach? Okay. My concern is that, again, we're getting into the area about where I think this witness claims to have knowledge of there being a green light on Binky, and then I'm objecting to that. So I'm not quite sure where we're going with this line of questioning. In terms of him claiming what Beezy said to him, it's hearsay. And I think Your Honor had ruled that what Mr. Barronette had said about the issue is coming in, but now this witness is testifying to about what Beezy said about Binky, so that's hearsay, and I don't see how it's relevant. So it's leading up to a murder? Tell me. So, Your Honor, the government has base that this witness will say that Beezy was talking to him about Binky being on the street and having money on his head and how he didn't understand why he was out and that there was a contract, something along those lines. He then had a separate conversation. This witness had a conversation with Binky where Binky talked knowledge that Beezy was out saying these things. And so what Beezy said to this witness, I think it's not being offered for the truth of the matter asserted, just simply being offered to show that he's saying those things, and then Binky is confirming that in a later conversation, and it provides motive for the murders. But I don't see how the jury is going to split that hair and say it's not admissible for the truth if it is, but then the government is claiming that Binky's saying the same thing to him. And how can the jury not use it for the truth if it's, quote, corroborating what Binky said? I mean, it could be true, it could be untrue. It is a motive for the murder. That's not the point. Right, but it's motive for murder if it's coming from my client. It's not a motive for murder if it's coming from Mr. Chase. What Mr. Chase said to this witness, he doesn't have, I understand how. What Mr. Harrison said to this witness regarding Mr. Chase comes in as motive, but what Mr. Chase said to this witness about Binky, there's no information. There's separate information, but it's essentially corroborating that information. But they're trying to offer it not for the truth. But it can't not be used for the truth if you're saying Binky said this as well. He's not testifying that Binky was there when Mr. Chase said this. He's claiming he had his own conversation with Mr. Chase. Okay. But Mr. Chase is the victim, right? Yes. Okay, so Mr. Chase talks about there being a green light on, which is rank hearsay. I mean, what Mr. Chase is saying is hearsay. So this is hearsay contained within that hearsay that someone is telling Mr. Chase that Binky has a hit out on him. So someone else told Mr. Chase this, and now Mr. Chase is relaying it to the witness. So it's two levels of hearsay about that Binky did something, so he deserves a hit on his head. Right, and allegedly this gets to Binky, but that's a separate issue. I wish I could, but I don't think I can object to what this witness is claiming that Binky said to him about Mr. Chase, but what Mr. Chase said to him is hearsay. How would you like me to instruct the jury on this? I mean, notwithstanding my objection that it's hearsay, if it's somehow coming in not for the truth of it, I think the jury should be instructed. I don't see how they could possibly not use it for the truth under these circumstances, but I'm not at all sure that I need to instruct them anything. But if I'm instructing them something, I will tell them that what the witness is saying that Beezy told him. Told him, not them, him. Him. Yeah, okay. What Beezy told him about there being a hit on Mr. Harrison. I just think the conversation between this witness and Mr. Chase is not being offered for the truth or Beezy. The government's not offering that for the truth of what Mr. Chase said, or if you want to call Why don't you put that into your questioning? Sure. I think it's more appropriate for the court to instruct the jury. I'll reinforce. Okay, thank you. Yes, Your Honor. All right, so, sir, we were talking about a conversation that you had with Beezy. First, before we get into that conversation, you mentioned you hadn't seen him since 2004 or you hadn't hung out with him since 2004. When does this conversation take place? You talking about 2004 or the last, like one of the last times I seen him? You said you knew that Beezy was dead, is that right? Yeah, but you said the last time I seen him was in 2004 and you said something about what that conversation. I said it wasn't what you talking about, 2004 or the last time I seen him. The last time you saw him, when was the last time you saw him before he died? You said where? When? Probably like 2 weeks or 10 days, 2 weeks before he died. Okay, and when did he die approximately? Approximately, I think it was like the beginning of January. Of what year? 15. Okay, so this conversation took place sometime at the end of 2014 or early January 2015? Yes. Okay, and you started to talk about how Beezy was talking about Binky, is that right? Yes, and what did he say? He wasn't even directly like talking to me, but he was just repeating out loud that my shorty crazy for keep coming around here like he ain't got all that money on his head, or just that, and like basically like he was crazy for keep coming around with that money on his head. And what did you understand him to mean, money on his head? I guess he had a hit. Okay, Binky had a hit? Yes. Okay, where did you hear Beezy say these things? I mean, I think we was on Calhoun Street or we was standing on the corner. Were you outside? Yes. Okay, same objection, Your Honor. Is this the appropriate place for the... Yes, sorry, Your Honor. Sure. Do you want me to ask a further question? We need to just tell the jury that this particular conversation that the witness says he had with Beezy is not being offered for the truth of whatever there was or was not money on his head. It's not being offered for that purpose. Yeah, when Beezy is saying this, do you know if it's true or not true if Binky has money on his head? No. Okay, it's just what Beezy is saying? Yes. Did you have a conversation with Binky about what Beezy said? Yes. And was that before or after you heard this from Beezy? After. Okay, was it before Beezy died? Yes. And what did Binky say about Beezy? Basically, he was crazy for keep repeating it, like nobody won't try to figure out where some money coming from or try to suppose when somebody try to figure out where it's coming from and try to do something to him. What did he mean by that, where the money's coming from? I guess whoever was offering a hit by him keeping on saying that he had the money on his head, that basically if somebody were to track down who was offering the money and try to do something to him. Do something meaning what? Kill him. And that's what Binky was saying about Beezy? Yeah. Was Binky concerned about this? Yeah, he was concerned. And did he indicate he was going to do anything about it? Yes. What did he say? He said he was going to holler at him and get him out of there. He was going to holler at Beezy and get him out of there? Yes. Okay, did you see Binky and Tana on the day that Beezy died? Yes. Okay, where were you when you saw them? On Mosher Street. What time of day was it? It was just got dark. And did you see Beezy and Tana together? Or excuse me, when you saw Beezy, did you see him with anybody else? No, he was walking down the street, then walked down to the bar. Okay, did you see... I'm sorry, I messed that up. I asked you about Beezy. I meant to ask you about Binky. Did you see Binky and Tana that night that Beezy was killed? Yes. Okay, where did you see Binky and Tana first? First, I was walking down Gilmore Street. They picked me up and took me down the way. Who picked you up? Tana and Binky. And were they in a vehicle? Were they on foot? Vehicle. Okay, what type of vehicle? I think it was a Benz. Who was driving the vehicle? Tana. You said you got in? Yeah, I got in it. Did you get in the front seat, back seat? Back seat. And where was Binky in the vehicle? In the front passenger side. When you got in the vehicle, where did you guys go? Rolled around the neighborhood, rolled through like Gilmore Homes, down the avenue, then parked down the way. Is this all in Sandtown? Yes. Okay, you said you parked down the way. Where's down the way? On Mosher Street. Okay, at some point did you see Beezy? Yes. Where did you see him? Walking down Mosher Street. Is this while you were parked with Binky and Tana? Yes, but we was getting out the car. When you saw Beezy, did you react at all? No. Did you say anything to either Tana or Binky? Yes, I had said something to Binky. I think I had asked him about the situation. Or whatever, and that was it. So you see Beezy, and then you said you asked Binky about the situation. What do you mean? Like that it had slipped my mind, the previous conversation. Basically, when I seen Beezy, it came back to my recollect. So like when I tapped the seat, I was like basically asked him basically what was up with him, and he was ready to holler at him. So you said you tapped the seat? What do you mean tap the seat? The headrest of the front seat. Where Binky was sitting? Yeah. Did Binky respond to you at all? Yeah, he said he was ready to holler at him. He said he was ready to holler at him? What did you understand that to mean? It could mean a few different things, but during that time, if you don't know, that's okay. I don't know. When Binky said that he was ready to go holler at Beezy, what did you say in response? I ain't say nothing in response. Like Beezy turned the corner, I walked over across the street to the store and got a cigarette. It was a few more people outside. I stayed up on the corner of Calhoun and Mosher. They walked down into the middle of the block. Who walked down in the middle of the block? Tana and Binky. They walked down into the middle of the block or whatever. Then it was a few more people down that I don't remember exactly who, but which street are we talking about? Mosher? Yes, Mosher. And basically when they went and was talking to Beezy, they was in front of 909. So Tana and Binky are talking to Beezy in front of the 909? Yeah. Where are you at? I was up on the corner of Calhoun and Mosher. You could see them where you were? Yes, about this time. I don't know if other people was inside the store or what, but it done got a little crowded outside of the store or whatever the case might be. But after a few minutes, they got to walking up Calhoun. Towards you? Yes. Okay, and who's they? Beezy, Binky, Tana. They got to walking to up towards where they was talking. Were you surprised to see the three of them together? Kind of. Okay, for real, but they was talking or whatever the case might be. But when Binky and Beezy kept walking up Calhoun, I had asked, did they walk past you? Yeah, they walked past me. I had asked Tana, I said, yo, what's up? What the fuck? He I don't know, but shit, I ain't being seen with that or that last person, but alright, let me slow you down just a little bit. Yes. So Tana's talking to you now? Yes. Okay, and Beezy and Binky have walked past? Yes. What does Tana say to you? No. I had asked Tana basically what was up, right? What's up? He was I don't know, but he geeking. I ain't going to be the last one being seen with that, or whatever the case might be. He said Binky was geeking? Yes. Because he was going to be the last person seen with Beezy? Yeah, he said basically he ain't to be one of the last persons being seen walking with him. Okay, did Beezy and Binky continue to walk together? Yes, but about this time Binky was walking. I told you there was a few people on the other side of the street that was by the store. They was on that side too, for real, whereas though they probably was a few paces behind. But I got to walking towards 909. Okay, let me stop you right there. What did Tana do? Tana, he got in his car and pulled off. Okay, let me back you up for just a second. I apologize. I want to go back to when you were in the car before you get out. Do you know if Binky had a gun in the car? Yes. How do you know Binky had a gun in the car? Like, I used to carry guns. Everybody used to carry guns. That's not what I'm asking. Objection. Motion to strike. We'll see what the answer is. Rephrase. Did you see or hear anything that led you to believe Binky had a gun in the car? Yeah, I heard something click and fumble, fumble and click, yeah. And what did it sound like to you? A gun. Okay, all right. So Beezy and Binky are walking up Calhoun. Tana stopped to talk to you. What did Tana do after you had that brief conversation? Got in the car. He got in the car? Yeah, he got in his car, pulled off, and turned down Carey Street. Okay, and where did Beezy and Binky go? They was walking up Calhoun. Did you see Beezy do anything with his clothes while they were walking up that way? He had put his hood on and was putting on gloves and stuff himself or whatever. Beezy was, you say he put his hood on? Yes. And gloves? Yes. Okay, where did Tana go in his vehicle in the car? He went up Masha Street and made a left I got to walking down Calhoun towards the bar. Towards the 909? Yes. Could you see, at some point did you lose sight of both Tana and Binky and Beezy? Yes. Okay, and you said you headed down to the 909? Yes. Did you go into the 909? Yes. Okay, at any point did you hear gunshots? Yes, like before I got to the store, I heard gunshots, but like I say, I was down by 909. So you didn't see the gunshots, you just heard them? Yes. How many gunshots did you hear, if you know? Probably around, I want to say 7, 6, 7, 8, something like that. Then a pause and probably like 2, 3 more. A pause and then like 2 or 3 more? Yes. How long was that pause? Seconds? Minutes? Probably seconds. Seconds. Okay. After that pause, you hear a few more gunshots. At any point, did you see the vehicle that Tana was driving? Yes, it came back down Calhoun Street. Where did it go? Straight down Calhoun. It went straight down Calhoun? Yeah. Did it drive past you on Calhoun? Yes, I was coming back out the bar. It drove past me on Calhoun. After the vehicle passed in front of you, did you hear any more gunshots? A few minutes later. A few minutes? Yes. How many more gunshots did you hear? Probably like 3 to 4, something like that. Did you see Tana, Beezy, or Binky any more that night after you heard the, I guess, 3rd set of gunshots? No, about time the 3rd set, I done came around and got my weed, my liquor, and I was on my way in the house. Okay, after the first 2 sets of gunshots that occurred seconds apart, is that right? Yes. So after you hear those, do you see the police come into the area? No. Okay, how about after the 3rd set of gunshots you said occurred a few minutes later, did you see the police come into the area after that? Yes. Did you ever talk to Binky about this incident? I ain't talked to him, not after. I ain't ever talked to him after the incident, no. After this night, did you ever talk to him about what happened to Beezy? Objection. No, I ain't ever talked. Objection. Hold on, sir. Overruled. Go ahead. Did you ever have a conversation with Binky about what happened to Beezy? About what happened to Beezy? Did he ever tell you what happened that night? I'm trying to think to my recollect, and I think it was something about his own greed for real. Say that one more time, sir. I said I think it was something about his own greed, whereas though he thought that they was on their way to go do something, or somebody just sold a car or some shit that they was ready to go. Hold on, sir. You're saying a lot of these, theys, and things like that. Did you ever talk to Binky about what happened to Beezy that night? Do you know if Beezy was killed that night? Yes. Okay, did you ever talk to Beezy about, Did you ever talk to Binky about Beezy being killed that night? Yes, not that same night. Okay, how long after that night did that conversation occur? Probably a few days. Okay, is it something that you brought up, or is it something that Binky brought up? It was probably something I brought up. Do you remember how you brought it up? Not exactly. Okay, do you remember what Binky said about it? Give me a second. After the incident, he ain't say too much about it. Like before the incident, he more so was just more so hurt that that he was going around putting it out there that he had the money on his head or what. But after the incident, we ain't really talk about it or go into detail or whatever the case might be. But I knew Beezy had got killed from when I came out. Sir, do you recall testifying in the grand jury? Yes. If you read your grand jury testimony, would that possibly refresh your recollection? Yes. Can I have one moment, Your Honor? Objection. Overruled. Sir, you had an opportunity to read the document, is that right? Yes. All right. After you've read that document, did it refresh your recollection? Yes. Okay. Do you recall having a conversation with Binky about Beezy's murder? Yes. Approximately how long after the murder did that conversation occur? Probably a few days. Okay. Can you tell us what Binky said during that conversation? No, I think I had asked him basically how the f they gonna get him to walk off for real, and how did who get who to walk off? How did Binky and Tana get Beezy to basically walk off or whatever, and basically his own greed? They thought they was on the way up to commit a robbery, and why would Beezy think that they were going to go commit a robbery according to Binky? They got to talking some like they did. Sir, I need you to talk into the microphone. They had got to talking like somebody they was on just robbed somebody. I mean, just sold 2 or 3 cars or something, and he had 7, 8 bands. Instead of taking me, take Beezy. All right. So this is what Binky told you? Yes. And Binky told you about what they said to Beezy? Yes. They told Beezy that someone had $7,000 or $8,000 and that they were going to rob him? Yes. And that's how they got him to walk off with them? Yes. Did Binky explain what happened after they got him to walk off? Got him out of here. Got him out of there? Yes. What did Binky mean by that? Whacked him. Speak into the microphone. Sir, you've got to speak into that microphone. Kill, kill, kill. Did he talk to you at all about, well, let me ask it a little differently. You testified that when you were out on the street, you heard a couple of series of shots. Is that right? Yes. When you talked to Binky, did he explain why there were multiple series of shots? Objection leading. Overruled. Yes, I don't know if, yes. What did he say? Basically, he got shot. That motherfucker, he moved. He wasn't in the alley no more. He may have been in somebody's yard, and he got hit again, so he won't tell. All right, sir, I only caught a little bit of that. I said he got hit again, so he wouldn't tell. He came back and he was gone. He was in somebody's yard. So they shot him? Yes. And then he wasn't in the alley anymore? No. And then what did Binky say? That he was in somebody's yard? Yes. Okay, and then what happened when this individual was in the yard, when Beezy was in the yard? He got shot again. By Binky and Tana? I don't know exactly. Your Honor, objection to the leading. Sustained to that last question. Okay. All right, sir. I'm going to show you what's been marked as Government Exhibit P15. Do you recognize the individual on your screen? Marquez. Do you know Marquez's full name? Marquez Jones. How do you know Marquez Jones? That's one of my best friends since elementary. Okay, did you grow up together in Sandtown? Yes. Do you know if he's alive or dead? Dead. Do you know when he was killed? Yes. Do you know the specific date? Yes. What was it? March 2nd, 2015. Now, when you were out of prison between November 2014 and 2015, did you have an opportunity to see Marquez? Yes, we used to see each other often or in passing. Okay, would you socialize? Yes. In that time period, how many times do you think you saw him? 2, 3 times? And when you saw him and you socialized, what would you do? Catch up, talking about the family, the kids. This particular conversation, he was talking to me about some new girl that he had just met. Okay, you said that he was killed on March 2nd, 2015. Did you see him that day? Yes. Where did you see him? On Lafayette. On Lafayette? Yes. In Sandtown? Yes. What did you and Marquez talk about at that time? Like have a normal conversation, how your mother doing, about the kids and stuff like that, like normal conversation. Where did you see him on that occasion? Where was he? On Lafayette. Okay, where on Lafayette? On Cary. Lafayette and Cary on the corner? Yes. Okay, was he in a vehicle? Was he on foot? On foot. And how about you? I was in a vehicle. Okay, did you stop the vehicle to talk to him? Yes. Did you stay in the vehicle or did you get out? Got out. Did you talk to him on the corner or did you go somewhere else? No, he was standing on the corner for a few minutes and then I had tapped him and told him, let's get the fuck out the corner, and we walked down into the block like 5, 6 houses. I want to show you Government Exhibit MJ10. Do you recognize that, sir? Yes. Okay, what is that a photograph of? Where we was sitting at. This is MJ10 on your screen. This is where you were sitting at on March 2nd, 2015 with Marquez Jones? Yes. Okay, do you know whose residence that is? I know, I don't know. I know a nickname. You only know a nickname? Yes. What's the nickname? Button. Button? Yes. Okay, sir, again, I need you to talk into that microphone. Button. Button. Why did you and Marquez stop in front of this residence? Because it's an area we usually just sit, and I was connected to the Wi-Fi. You were using the Wi-Fi from where? The house with the trash cans in front of the door. So we're looking at right here circling 1312. Are you talking about that residence or another residence? Next to it. Again, sir, speak into that microphone. Next to it. You said where the trash cans are at? Yes. Okay, and where were you? Were you standing in front of the residence or sitting? I was sitting on the top step. And where was Marquez? Probably standing on the first or second step. Were you standing next to the railing there, or were you sitting on the other side? I was sitting on the corner. He was standing like probably closer to the railing. Okay, when you were talking with Marquez, did you see anything that was suspicious to you or concerning to you? Yes. What did you see? Somebody come around the corner with a ski mask and a hoodie on. Okay, from which direction? If you're looking at the photograph, on the right or the left? The right. Coming this direction? Yes. Okay, and how was this individual dressed? Ski mask, hoodie. Did you say anything to Marquez when you saw this individual? Yeah, our last words, I asked him like, who the fuck is this? And he was like, I don't know. And we watched the dude walk all the way down. He was coming for him. Hold on, sorry, I didn't hear that last part you said. I said after the dude walked all the way down, he was coming for him. Was he walking on the street? Was he walking on the sidewalk? Where was this person walking? On the street. Okay, did he come toward you and Marquez, or did he go a different direction? He came down, got to cross, and like he was crossing the street and spinned off. When he spinned off, did he spin off towards you or away from you? He spinned towards Marquez. Now, when you initially saw the individual, you said he was wearing a ski mask and a hoodie. Is that right? Yes. Did you recognize him when you first saw him? Yeah, about time he probably got about 3 to 4 houses down. My guards went down because I ain't have a problem with the dude or what. And a lot of them kids walk around with that shit on. But I ain't know that him and my homeboy had problems. Alright, well, let's break some of that down. So you saw him about 3 or 4 houses down and you said you let your guard down. Is that, you have to answer, sir. Yes. Okay, is that because you recognized him? Yes. Who was he? He dead now. Okay, what was his name? Tevin. I'm showing you Government Exhibit P32. Do you recognize this individual? Yes. Who's that? Tevin. You said he was wearing a mask though at the time? Yes. Were you still able to identify him? Uh-huh. What part of his face were you able to see? From the eyes, this. Okay, for the record, the witness has a box around his nose, up past his eyes to his forehead. Is that right? Yes. Okay, so when Tevin spun towards you or spun towards Marquez, what happened? I thought, like I say, I had my head down in my phone, and in my mind, when I looked up and seen who it was, I thought he was giving him 5 until I heard the pop, and I heard, what was the pop? The gunshot. How did Marquez respond? He flinched like he flinched like he must have got hit in his face. About time, then I jumped up out of the step and was running towards Carey Street. But like before I got on the corner to step out my Provincial, I see Marquez try to leap forward. The dude sidestepped, hit him, and as I hit him, how? Shot him. Okay. And as I was running up Lafayette, I just kept hearing the shots going off. So after Marquez lunged towards Tevin, you said he shot him? Yes. Okay, what did Marquez do at that point? I was running up Lafayette, so like when I got out the corner on the step, I'm standing there to my Provincial, man, like he was like tilting forward. Sir, talk into that microphone, please. I said he was tilting forward like he was falling, like he was done. Like by that time I got out the corner, he was tilting forward, like fell on his face. And you said the first pop you heard, you said Marquez flinched like he got hit in the face. Is that right? Yes. Is that right? Yes. Okay, when you ran, where did you run to? Up Lafayette and made a left on Carey Street. After you ran away or ran from the scene, at some point did you come back? Yeah, I had dropped my phone. About how long after the shooting did you come back? 10 seconds, 5 to 10, probably like 10 seconds, something like that. You didn't wait long at all? No, I had waited for a few to see if any more shots going to be fired. Then I ran to the corner, peeked, and then I ran down to where my phone was at. And where was your phone at? Like probably in front of the flower pot? Sir, you can actually touch the screen in front of you and make a circle or a mark. Can you tell us, show us? Probably like, hold up, probably where the X at. Okay, for the record, the X is at the lower right hand corner of the photograph. So when you got back down to get your phone, where was Marquez? Lying face down, staring into space. Could you see any injuries that he might have? Yeah, his teeth and all that was gone. I'm sorry, I need you to say that one more time. I said his teeth, all his teeth was knocked out his mouth, and he was lying face down, eyes open, staring into space. Did you retrieve your phone? Yes. Once you retrieved your phone, what did you do? I had went to my homeboy house to get myself together and get myself together. Were you upset? Yeah, and hurt. You said you went to your friend's house. Which house, which friend? Sir, you put an X underneath the 2 windows on the right? Yes. Is that the residence next to 1312? Yes. Okay, the place you were getting the Wi-Fi from? Yes. Other than seeing Tev, did you see anybody else recognized on Lafayette either before or after the shooting? Before, I don't know his real name, Man, and his cousin Thug. Where did you see them? On the corner of Calhoun and Lafayette. So you said Man and his cousin Thug? Yes. Putting up government exhibit P9, do you recognize that individual, sir? Yes. Who is that? Man. And this is P28. Do you recognize that individual, sir? Yes. Who's that? Thug. Did you see what Man and Thug were doing? No, when they had walked down, they was just standing on the corner. I ain't think nothing first out the ordinary, but the more I had basically put it together, like we was boxed in from the jump for real. All right, after the shooting, did you ever have a conversation with Tana about the shooting? Yes. How long after the shooting did that conversation occur? Probably 3 days, 4 days. And where did that conversation occur? In Kevin's house. Kevin's house? Yes. And who's Kevin? Where I X'd the picture at. Is that Buttons? No, Buttons is the steps we was on. Oh, okay, I apologize. So were you in Kevin's house when you talked to Tana? Yes. Okay, did Tana arrive before you or did you arrive? I was there first. Okay, and what did Tana say to you about the shooting? Basically, like, that the shooter wanted to holler at me, and basically he was asking me, was me and the dude friends? And I was telling him, yeah. And he was like, you know, when people be growing up, they be doing certain shit, and shit can be catching up with them or what. But basically, like, he wanted to basically get me and Tevin together so we can talk about it before it go any further. So Tana asked if you were friends with Marquez? Yes. And he wanted to get you together with Tevin? Yes, Why is that? Before a situation went any further or before it went any further? Did Tana talk to you about how Marquez was killed? Let me ask you a different question. Did Tana talk to you about why Marquez was killed? He had robbed the little kid months before. Who's the little kid? Tevin. Who had robbed Tevin? Marquez. Did he say what? Did Tana say what Tevin robbed Marquez of? No, Marquez robbed Tevin. Sorry, did Tana say what Marquez robbed Tevin of? No, he ain't going into detail. And that happened, you said, a couple of months earlier, according to Tana? Yes. Did Tana say what his role, if any, in the murder? Your Honor, can we stop leading, please? Overruled. Did Tana say if he had any role in the murder? He basically told him, show him hitting nobody else, that nobody else don't get shot. All right, sir, I'm going to have to ask you to say that again. I said basically don't hit nobody else. Make sure nobody else don't get hit or shot. That's what Tana said? Yes. About what? To Tevin. That's what he told Tevin? Yes. During this conversation, did Tana indicate he was present when Marquez was killed? Yes. What did he say? That he was sitting in the car. I ran past the car. Did Tana say anything about Man and Thug? No. So Tana indicated that he wanted you to talk to Tevin. Is that right? Yes, so we won't be beefing. What do you mean by beefing? Have conflict with each other? Did you ever have a conversation with Tevin about Marquez's murder? Yes. What did Tevin say? Objection. Did you ever have a conversation with Tevin about Marquez's murder? Yes. What did Tevin say? Objection. Basically that, I'm sorry, hold on, sir. Hearsay, overruled. What did Tevin say? Basically that Marquez robbed him over the summer, and times after that. He used to pat his pockets or whatever, like on the bullying tip that I guess was the day that he finally caught him slipping or caught him down bad. So Tevin said that Marquez was robbing him several times over the past summer? Yes. That would have been summer of 2014? Yes. When you talked to Tevin, did he explicitly say that he had shot Marquez? Yes. Did he know you were there at the time? Yes, and yes. I also was explaining that's why I didn't get hit, because if it was for me, basically he could have hit both of us. That's what Tevin said? Yes. Okay, after the shooting, did you have any injuries or anything like that? No, just a hole through my pants. You had a hole in your pants? Yes. And do you know if Tevin is alive or dead? He dead. Can I have a moment, Your Honor? Yes. No further questions, Your Honor. All right, thank you, Miss Wicks. Thank you. Court's indulgence. Good afternoon, sir. How are you doing? How are you today? I'm fine. Okay. When was the last time you used alcohol or drugs? Last night. Last night? Yes. Are you feeling the effects while you're sitting here right now? No. Are you going through withdrawal? No. So you have a substance abuse problem, would you say? Yes. Okay. One of the nights that you're talking about, you were on the way to get your weed and your alcohol, right? Yes. Is it fair to say you drank just about every day? Yes. Is it fair to say you used weed just about every day? Yes. Is it fair to say that you take pills just about every day? Nope. How often do you take pills? I quitted pills years ago. Okay, how many years ago did you quit the pills? 2012. Okay, and how many years had you used pills? 4 months. I'm sorry? 4 months. 4 months, okay. And are there other substances that you use the same way that you've used alcohol and weed? That's it. You came into court and pled guilty in August of this year? Yes. In this courthouse, right? Yes. And as part of your plea agreement, the government didn't oppose you being released in your case, right? Yes. As a condition of your release in the case, you're not supposed to break the law, right? Yes. And you're not supposed to be smoking weed, right? Yes. But it sounds like you're still smoking weed every day, right? Yes. So it's October 4th today, correct? Yes. All right, and you were released in August, correct? I was never in custody. Well, I'm sorry, you were released by the court after pleading guilty, correct? Yes. The judge that took your plea didn't lock you up, correct? Yes. The government didn't oppose to you being released, right? Yes. And you're under supervision of pretrial services, correct? Yes. And so that means you report to a probation officer, right? Yes. And are you drug tested? No. But you know that as a release, a condition of your release in August was that you not use drugs, right? Yes. And you not abuse alcohol, correct? No. No? No. It's okay with your probation officer if you abuse alcohol? That wasn't to my recollect, like I don't remember. You don't remember that? No. Okay, but it's fair to say that you have a substance abuse problem, right? No. No? No, because I can go days without it. I can go weeks without it. But you made a promise not to use, right? Not to commit crimes, right? Yes. And a violation of the conditions of your release in your case where you pled guilty in this courthouse to possession of that handgun as a felon is for you not to commit a crime, right? When is smoking weed a crime in Maryland now? Is it? I ain't thought it was. Okay. Is it okay with your probation officer if you're using weed every day? Do you think it's okay? No. Do you think it would be all right with the judge? And I think you're in front of Judge Russell, right? Yes. Do you think it would be all right with Judge Russell that you're using weed every day? No. Okay, so you're in violation of the conditions of your release, right? Yes. All right. And the case that you have here is based on you being arrested in last December, correct? Yes. And so for a long period of time, you had a Maryland state court case pending, right? Yes. And as a result of discussions with the government, your case went from state court here to federal court, right? Yes. And the penalties that you're facing here are pretty bad, right? Yes. And you knew when you were driving that car on December 8th, 2017, that there was a gun in the back of the car, right? Yes. And you knew that you didn't want to go to prison, right? Yes. There's no alcohol in prison, right? Well, you're not allowed to have alcohol in prison, right? That ain't having nothing to do with alcohol or no substances, if that's the point that you're trying to get to. I'm sorry? I said it had nothing to do with any alcohol or substances, if that's what you're trying to get to. Well, your arrest that night has everything to do with substances, right? No, I got arrested for a handgun. Well, you got stopped by police because you swerved over the yellow line, right? It had nothing to do with substance. That had nothing to do with the fact that you had been drinking that night? I wasn't drinking that night. You were not drinking that night? No, ma'am. You had not had alcohol to drink that night? Objection. Asked and answered. Overruled. No. So on December 8th, 2017, you were sober when you were driving that car? Yep. And you just, I guess, well, your story then was you swerved over the yellow line because of a text from your girlfriend, right? Objection, Your Honor. May we approach? Sure, approach. Objection is under 608 and 609. He's not on trial for swerving over a yellow line. He's admitted that he's pled guilty to a handgun violation. The underlying facts of the conviction are irrelevant. He's already admitted to it. He's been asked on direct. He's been asked on cross. It's not relevant, and I'd ask that we move on. Is there any kind of admission in the statement of facts about alcohol? There's an admission in his videotape statement, but that's a whole different section of my cross, and that's why I can come back to this yes, there's admissions in his videotape statement that he was drinking that night. Okay. And the question I literally just asked him about the text is also in there. And so why is that the text? At one point, he's blaming it on the text from his girlfriend, and that's why he swerved over the yellow line. But he's inebriated in the video. Your Honor, the government would still object. This is not relevant under 608 or 609. The conviction itself is relevant. The fact that he was drinking, whatever led up to it, doesn't matter unless it has something to do with bias or credibility. The fact that he might be an alcoholic, which he's essentially already admitted to, does not have anything to do with his credibility beyond his ability to perceive events. If counsel wants to question him about whether or not he was drinking at the time that he perceived events, that's a different issue. Well, his truthfulness relating to whether he's been drinking alcohol, I think, is a relevant issue for her to get into. He's just denied that he was drinking that night. She has contradictory evidence. Your Honor, the only thing I would say, I'm trying to let the cross occur. And I should have objected earlier because the initial questions about whether he's drinking that night are, again, getting into the substantive aspects of the crime. This crime is, the conviction is what's admissible. And I should have objected sooner. But she can't set something up and then say, well, I'm asking an inappropriate question under the rules and then get an end run around the rules. Your Honor, I would submit it's absolutely not inappropriate. It's absolutely relevant because he gives statements about things that he testified today, that night, when he's completely inebriated. Although he does, I will admit he does claim that he sobered up once he got arrested. I think this is sufficiency related to his ability to perceive events and to be truthful, but I'm going to allow some latitude to go into this on cross. Thank you, Your Honor. Court's indulgence. When you got arrested on December 8th of 2017, you told the very first officer that you had contact with that you had information about a homicide, right? Yes. And so that officer called a homicide detective down to the station, correct? Yes. And they took you in the back, right? Yes. And the first homicide that you tell them about is not one of the homicides that you're testifying about today, correct? Yes. I ain't sure. You're not sure? Well, you first tell them about a guy named Cubes getting killed, right? Yes. Pardon me? Yes. Okay, and the day that Cubes got killed, you were creeping, right? I was what? Creeping? Creeping? Yep. Like, what do you mean? Well, according to you, before your girl got off work that day, you were driving down the street and you met another girl, correct? Yes, but I ain't say creeping. Objection, relevance? I'll sustain the objection to this. I don't see where we're going. This is an unrelated. The point was that the first one was something different from what he's testified about today. Well, I think it is relevant. If we can approach, I can explain why I think that line of questioning is relevant. Okay. Your Honor, I think the point that he's even admitting in the video that he is essentially cheating on his girlfriend. No. But the point, there are so much other things to go into on cross. I have plenty to go into. I agree, Your Honor. If that's where you're going, that he was cheating on his girlfriend, no. Let's move to the next issue. Okay. Court's indulgence. Your Honor, can I confer with the government for a second? Sure. Mr. Pulley, even before you pled guilty. Excuse me, Your Honor, it's not Mr. Pulley. Sorry, it's Pauling. Pauling, I apologize. Your name is pronounced Pauling? Yes. I apologize, sir. Before you testified here in this courthouse, well, you testified in this courthouse even before you entered your plea agreement, correct? Yes. And at the point that you testified, your case was still pending in state court, correct? Yes. But before you testified in the grand jury, you sat down and met with federal agents, correct? Yes. And you testified in the grand jury in February. And so that between your arrest in December of 2017 and your grand jury appearance in February of 2018, you sat down and had a meeting with the government, right? Yes. And that was a proffer session, correct? Yes. And at that point, you already had a lawyer appointed in this courthouse, correct? I'm not sure. You have a lawyer named David Fisher? But I ain't sure if he was my lawyer during that time or not. Okay, would it refresh your recollection to look at the proffer letter that you signed regarding that first meeting? Yes. Okay, may I approach, Your Honor? You may. Okay, I'm going to show you what I'll mark as John Harrison 2, just looking at the first page, and I'm directing your attention to the name. That's October. Yeah, I see the name, but you talking about back in, we can't hear. Your Honor, can we just approach? No. You saying between December and February. I'm saying I'm not sure if he was my attorney then. You just showing me a piece of paper with his name on it, but the date say October 2nd. Your Honor, I have a question about the piece of paper. Is it critical to the questions? Yes. Okay. And Your Honor, the problem is now I look like an idiot in front of the jury, but the proffer letter that the government gave me when I printed it out on my computer changed the date, and I don't have a signed one. I'm just trying to refresh his recollection with whom the name of his lawyer is. What's the matter? He said he just doesn't remember the name of his lawyer. That's what I'm getting to. Why are we making a big deal about that? Now, I can't use this document with him because it's dated October 2nd. I don't have a copy of his proffer. That's a different issue, but I don't see why you can't ask him the questions about the proffer and go right ahead and show him that document. And I just did, and he noticed the date on it. So he already commented in front of the jury that the date is wrong. The government will stipulate that he signed a letter with that exact content in it. I mean, it's clear from his grand jury testimony that he had a proffer letter going into it. Is that the letter? We'll tell the jury that that's the wrong date on the letter. What's the right date? I apologize, Your Honor. I don't know the right date. It's before his grand jury testimony. Okay. What else did you need to show him the letter for? Was it just, I thought you were showing him just to remind him that his lawyer's name was Mr. Fisher. Yes, that's what I was using at this point. It's something I planned to use. I realized it before I went up, and that's why I conferred with Mr. Gardner that it's actually the date changed on my computer. So, all right. Well, if you need to ask him about that letter for something more substantive than the name of his attorney, we'll tell the jury that this is the wrong date on the letter, but everybody agrees that was his lawyer. Okay, thank you. Is that being offered for evidence then, or just for identification? Yes, it's been marked for identification as I was trying to refresh his recollection. So are you going to offer it into evidence with that? I would offer it eventually, but we can deal with that. Change it by then. Mr. Pauling, I apologize. There were a number of areas that you discussed with the homicide detective back on December 8th of 2017, correct? Yes. And the end of that, well, after that, you then come into this courthouse and have a proffer session with the government, correct? Yes. And then you go and testify in the grand jury, correct? Yes. Okay, and just first to clarify, you were asked on direct about some questions about when you were locked up. Do you remember those questions? Yes. Okay, you were locked up from approximately September 12th, 2003 to November 16th, 2011, correct? Yes. And when you came home in 2011, you were under supervision, correct? Yes. How long did that supervision last? 3 years, 10 months? 3 years, 7 months? 3 years, 10 months. Okay, and you violated that supervision, correct? I got reinstated. I violated, but I got reinstated. Okay, and you were rearrested in custody between January of 2014 and November of 2014, correct? Yes. And then again, you were in custody from, I believe, around October 2015 and September 22nd, 2017, correct? September 27th. I gave my time back on the 22nd. I apologize. September 27th, I was released. I gave my time back on the 27th, 2nd. And what do you mean by I gave my time back? I went back to court. Your Honor, I apologize. We have to approach. Okay. I believe the answer is the gun trace task force. I think he was convicted. Everything came out with the gun trace task force and his conviction was reversed and he got out, is what I think the answer is going to be. I don't think he has an actual conviction. I think he was vacated. I don't care if the conviction, I just don't want to get into the gun trace task force. Okay, well, I assume, Miss Wicks, that was just following up? I really don't know what the answer. I know, it's no one's fault. So the point was how long he was locked up. Right, but I think I can certainly probably lead him to just explain that. What do we have to just say that he got out September 27th of 2015, right? 2017. 2017, I'm sorry. And then we can move on? Okay, thank you. Okay, so you got out of custody in September of 2017, correct? Yes. And then you were rearrested on December 8th of 2017, correct? Yes. And how long were you held based on that arrest? 5 days, and then I got bail and bailed out. You bailed out after 5 days? Yep. So at this point on that gun arrest in December of 2017, you've been in custody for 5 days, correct? Yes. But you testified earlier this afternoon about being in BGF, right? Former. Right, former. You joined BGF in prison, correct? Yes. And now, some of the time that we've talked about that you were in custody, you were in jail and not in prison. Sometimes there's a difference between those two places, right? Yes. Okay, BGF is in both places, correct? Yes. Okay, And during the time period that you testified that you were in BGF, you were in prison and on the street and in jail, correct? I don't get your question. Well, during the time period that you were in BGF, yes, you started in prison, correct? Yes. Part of that time when you got out, you were still BGF, correct? Yes. And part of that time you were then in jail, you were still in BGF, right? No, I got let go in 2013. In 2013, you got let go? Yes. Court's indulgence. When? Weren't you let go from BGF when you were at Hagerstown? Yes, that was in a year ago, but it's two different divisions. So you had to get let out of two different bubbles? Not even that. I got let go 2013. Even when I made it back to prison or whatever, a lot of people that knew I was BGF from my prior years basically wanted me to function again. But I was telling them that I had got let go. I had got let go or whatever. So basically until they investigated it and got the call home and see that, yeah, that's what it was. That's what it was. So technically, I was gone since 2013, but they had to, I guess, follow up and make sure it was true. Okay, and you had gone back into prison in 2015, correct? Yes. And it was May of 2017 when I guess you got this final okay to not be BGF, correct? Yes, that's when it cleared in prison. It was already cleared on the street, and it was cleared in the prison now. And it's your testimony that it was cleared on the streets in 2013? Yes. And so you're saying it took from 2013 to 2017 for BGF in Hagerstown to understand you weren't BGF anymore? Because I didn't go back into Hagerstown until 2016. I got locked up in 15, but I ain't make it out there until 16. But when did you get to Hagerstown in 2016? February. So you're saying for 14 months you were at Hagerstown and they all thought you were BGF? Some did, some knew what was going on and some didn't. But basically until they proved it, yeah, but I wasn't functioning. Okay, you were telling guys you weren't BGF? Uh-huh. And you were telling guys that you had been out of BGF since 2013, right? Yes. Now, you joined BGF back during your first long stint in prison, right? Yes. And there was a reason for that, right? Yes. Why did you join BGF back during your first prison stint? Because during the time, when I first joined, it was back in 2006-07. It was a different time where I thought it was like more unified and more like, it was more unified and it drawed me to it for real. Like it had got a bad image and tarnished once it got onto the street. But before it got onto the street, it was a beautiful thing at one point. Okay, and what was beautiful about it? Miss Wicks, do you? The brotherhood, the unity. I need to know when we're at a good breaking point. This is fine, Your Honor. Okay, could I see counsel at the bench for a minute? Two, like basically from the same. Objection, Your Honor. Club, so they had. Objection. Hold on for a second. Stop. Foundation. I thought he was relating what he says Binky says. May we approach? Okay. I'm concerned that I'm not quite sure the witness's basis for knowing what Binky said to BGF. He said he was with them. I'm having a hard time hearing the witness, so maybe I'm missing something, but it's not clear to me. Personal conversation that this witness heard Mr. Harrison say. Sure. Thank you. All right. Sir, you mentioned an individual named Binky. I'm putting up what's been marked as Government Exhibit P4. Can you see that on your monitor right there, sir? Yes. Do you recognize that individual? Yes. Who is that? Binky. Okay, do you know Binky's real name, or do you just know him as Binky? Know him by Binky. How long have you known Binky? About 20 years. 20 years? Okay. And you said that you were BGF, is that correct? Yes. Do you know if if Binky has any gang affiliation? I thought they cut us loose at the same time. Well, hold on. Focus on the question. Okay, that's okay. Do you know if Binky has any gang affiliation? Does he belong to any gang that you know of, or did he belong to any gang that you know of? I want to answer the question two different ways for real. One way I want to say is, objection, Your Honor. Yes, he did have affiliation. Overruled. But he cut ties with the affiliation too. Okay, and affiliation with what gang? BGF. Okay, and I think you were in the process of telling us how he cut ties with BGF, is that right? How he knows that? Yes. Okay, how do you know that Binky cut ties with BGF? Because at the same time he cut ties. Were you with him when this conversation occurred? Yeah, both of us, we got cut loose. We got cut loose together. We was having a conversation with an older dude or whatever, and basically we was telling someone in BGF? Yes, and basically we was telling him that the people that was around, or whatever the case might be, like they ain't come from basically the same places that we came from for real. So that's why we wasn't interacting or what, but they had gave us the orders to fall back then. You were allowed to fall back? Yes. Okay, you and Binky? Yes. All right. I started to ask you a little bit about how you know Binky. You said you've known him for about 20 years? Yes. During that 20-year period, you were incarcerated for a lot of that, right? Yes. Okay. When you were not incarcerated, would you hang out with Binky? Would you certainly socialize? Or is it just someone you knew from the street? No, from time to time we socialized, hung out, like I knew him, I know him. What was the last thing you said, sir? I said I knew him. I said I know him, like for real, the same way. And sometimes you would hang out or socialize? Okay, what would that entail? Sometimes coming around and looking for weed, or like I say, sometimes I say most times I pulled up all them is together. They probably playing football in the street, stuff like that, riding a dirt bike up and down the street. Or I say sometime we might, like I say, we at the, over a period of time, it varies. Like sometimes we might sit and play the game, or it varies over a period of time of, this is you and Binky? Yeah, me, Binky, or like I say, it's other people outside, or what, like peoples would be outside. Okay, and when you say outside, where are you talking about? Are you talking about Baltimore? Yes. And what part of Baltimore? Sandtown. Okay, where are you from, sir? Sandtown. Okay, is that where you grew up? Yes. I'm going to show you Government Exhibit P1. You can see it on your monitor there. Do you recognize that individual? Yes. And who is that? Tana.